Good morning and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us in today's town hall about assistance for our vulnerable populations. I am Council Member Bob Carling, and joining me today is my colleague, Council Member Trish Munro. We're pleased that you've joined us today with a panel of experts or organizations throughout the Tri-Valley that are helping to serve our most vulnerable here in Livermore. So joining us today are Kerry Abbott from the Alameda County Director of Homeless Care and Coordination, Christine Beitsch-Bahmani, the CEO at CityServe of the Tri-Valley, Heather Greaux, Executive Director of Open Heart Kitchen, and Ralph Johnson from TriValley Haven, the TriValley Haven Director of Homeless and Family Support Services. Thank you all for joining us today. First, I'd like to give a couple of updates on what we've done in the city in terms of supporting those that are most needy. One is providing solar cell charging devices for folks' smartphones. And you may be asking yourself, why is that so important? Two reasons. One is the homeless need to get the most current information on COVID-19. And that's one way they can do that, through their cell phones. And secondly, CityServe has been providing case management services to each of those homeless individuals. And in order to continue to serve them in a reasonable way through the pandemic and maintaining social distancing, physical distancing, they need to be able to have cell phones that are working very, very well. So the city, working through CityServe, bought 100 solar cell devices that now can charge these cell phones that the homeless have. And so this is something that the city has been instigating and taking lead on. And then we've also been communicating what we've been doing in that regard with cities such as Oakland, Fremont, Berkeley, and they've been following our lead and also purchasing solar cell devices for charging cell phones. So that's something that city's been doing recently in conjunction with CityServe. I'd also like to point out that once we went into self-isolation, providing showers and laundry services came to a halt in the city. And so that's an important service to the unsheltered population. And thinking was, how can we bring that back to that population? So again, the city, not having any protocol or process to clean showers and to provide laundry services in a clean and effective way, hired an industrial hygienist. And that person spent some time thinking about what the process and protocols might be to ensure the safety not only of the homeless population that was coming in to use the showers and the laundry, but also those that are volunteers, for example, that are there at the showers and laundry to provide those services. How do we maintain protection for them in this time of the pandemic? And so that industrial hygienist created the system of protocols and processes that we then implemented on April the 20th at Asbury Methodist Church. So that those showers and laundry services are now open 3 days a week to that unsheltered population, and they can serve about 30 showers a day. And the folks, there are volunteers helping provide that. CityServe, for example, provides services on one of those days, block by block, again, hired by the city, provides services to maintain social distancing amongst the population and making sure that people are wearing the proper personal protective equipment and so on. There's also a physician's assistant that comes 1 day a week to also monitor and help those that are in most need at this time of the self-isolation and so on. So at that point, I'd like to turn over to my colleague, Councilmember Trish Munro. She's going to talk about a couple of other things that the city is implementing. Trish?
Hi there. Thanks, very much. So continuing with the importance of sanitation, you've talked a little bit about the showers. Obviously, there's daily needs. Going to the bathroom happens fairly frequently during the day for most of us. This is something where sanitation is incredibly important. It's where disease gets spread of all kinds. And particularly at this time, it's really essential that the unsheltered population have the ability to wash hands and a place to go to the bathroom in safety. So the city's acquired 3 portable restrooms and hand washing stations that are by Arroyo Las Positas. They're fully serviced a couple times a week by the company that we're renting them from. And then we have Block by Block, which is the biohazard provider that we arranged with as we in our first stage of our efforts to work to manage the issues around unhoused in our community. Block by Block sweeps them out, restocks with supplies on a daily basis. There's also 2 additional hand washing stations located at Railroad and East Stanley near the bridge. Again, we're all sheltering in place. We're all working on making sure that we're hand washing and using masks and so on. As hard as it is for all of us, it is infinitely harder, no, not infinitely, much, much harder for those who are unhoused. These portable restrooms are essential for helping our unhoused population to maintain sanitation. Food is another area that we have been working on. So for seniors and for others who need it, LARPD and the city together have provided the staff and supplies for TriValley Haven's food drives and Open Heart Kitchen. You'll be hearing from Heather Greaux a little bit later on during this town hall. And you'll also be hearing from TriValley Haven later on. So they'll speak about that a little bit more about that. In addition, as you know, public transportation has been underutilized during this time of sheltering in place. So at this point, we have our Wheels and Laughter drivers are supporting Spectrum's Meals on Wheels. And they've expanded eligibility to all homebound seniors, many of whom are homebound due to sheltering in place. They're continuing to add additional routes. Spectrum, and Meals on Wheels, they continue to increase the number of clients that they're serving. So they had 12 routes, they're now at 16. They're planning for going up to 20, up to as many as 20. The Senior Support Program for the Tri-Valley continues to provide services via phone, and they're seeing, no surprise, an increase of phone calls to the main line for referrals to the programs and services. Legal assistance for seniors is still providing services via the phone. And as you know, we recently opened up a complex for low-income seniors at Chestnut Square. Tri-Valley Haven is going to be expanding food bag delivery to Chestnut Square in this coming week, and perhaps we'll hear a little bit more about that later on today. Food costs, particularly for essential proteins, continues to rise dramatically. You can help with this. Contact Open Heart Kitchen, contact CityServe. Also, volunteers are always needed, particularly since many of the volunteers, previous volunteers are now in the category of people who need to be sheltering in place due to age. So let's see. We continually are identifying new additional funding opportunities for local safety net providers. We're trying to offer technical assistance, getting critical care providers through the Emergency Operations Center. And finally, the staff helped recommend organizations for the Tri-Valley Nonprofit Fund, which launched a fundraising campaign on April 27th. And you can go to tvnpa.org Tri-Valley Nonprofit Alliance for details and to contribute. I'm actually going to be speaking about that a little bit towards the end of this. I have a little bit more to say about that. But I want to continue to talk a little bit more about the food situation and then turn it over to the next speaker before I say more about the Tri-Valley Nonprofit Fund. Pet food. Pets are, particularly during this time where human contact is so limited, pets are so important for people. So pet food distribution happens on Wednesdays from 1 to 3, and the Valley Humane Society is doing that, and that's at the Robert Livermore Community Center. With that, you can go to our website to see more information on all of this information. The COVID-19 website link has information for all of this right there. Just click on the link. It's right on the top of the city's homepage. With that, I would like to introduce Kerry Abbott. She is the Director of Homeless Care and Coordination for Alameda County. And she'll be speaking to what the county is doing with regard to these vulnerable populations. Kerry, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi there. Thank you, Council Member. So my name's Kerry. I oversee the Office of Homeless Care and Coordination for the Healthcare Services Agency for Alameda County. It's a new office that was just started at the end of 2019. So it's been an exciting few months. The county has, especially within healthcare, tried to respond very quickly to the COVID pandemic and has had a focus on people who are vulnerable and people who are homeless. We have provided prevention support through our homeless resource centers, our housing resource centers throughout the county, provider support in the form of weekly calls with shelter and outreach providers. We're providing technical assistance within the shelters through our shelter health program, through Healthcare for the Homeless. We've conducted a shelter decompression process where we were able to bring people who are in congregate shelter who are over 65 or high risk medically into the hotels program. We have been doing additional outreach throughout the county to identify people who are very vulnerable, to increase hygiene support in encampments with portable toilets and hand washing stations. And we've been screening for people who are symptomatic in the encampments, doing case investigations when we do find people who have COVID, and trying to do contact tracing and make sure that we can bring people into the non-congregate shelter when needed. The biggest effort that we've undertaken that's also gotten the most attention is Project Roomkey, which is a FEMA-supported and State of California supported project bringing people who are unsheltered or in congregate shelter into hotel rooms that the county or the state has leased. We currently have over 500 leased rooms. We started with Operation Comfort for people who are COVID positive or presumptively positive, so people demonstrating symptoms of COVID, and that's an isolation and quarantine site. Additionally, we have what we call Operation Safer Ground for people who are over 65 or medical high risk, and that 289 room site is pretty full. The COVID positive site, we've kept rooms available, and we're opening another site for people who are COVID positive. We currently have hotels in Oakland and Alameda, the Alameda site opening next week, and we're under negotiation for hotels in Livermore, Hayward, Newark, and looking for another site in North County. We hope to have the additional hotels available by mid-May if we're able to proceed with the negotiations that we've commenced. So far we have been able to bring in over 400 people through Operation Roomkey, and we're also looking to launch a scattered site Project Room Key program over the next couple weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. A lot of good information there. Now I'd like to introduce Christine Beitsch-Bahmani, CEO of CityServe of the Tri-Valley. Christine?
Sorry, can you hear me now? Are you guys okay? Can you hear me? Okay, great. I just first want to just thank Grace, Josh, Claudia, Fran, Eric, and all the council members. You guys have been fantastic in regards to your support. So I just want to thank you guys so much for our nonprofit. Just to have that support has been wonderful. We have been working around the clock, just continuing the work that we do all year round, crisis stabilization. So we've been prepared for this. A couple of the initiatives that we have added on, we are continuing to do enrollment for the safe parking. There was a high uptick as far as interest. However, some of the people that were in the safe parking, we have now placed into hotels. So that's why the numbers are a little lower right now, because they were in that medically high risk category. We have been the local kind of emergency hotel placement coordinator. So other than Safer Ground or Operation Comfort, which we do refer people to, the local Livermore has allowed us to be kind of the hub for identifying and working with our other nonprofit partners to identify those really high level medically at risk folks. And we have placed since May 21st or March 21st, 25 individuals into hotels. We currently have 15, so some of them got a little healthier. We rotated some in, some out. We have about 21 on the wait list. So if Project Room Key does come to Livermore, then we're hoping that those 21 on the wait list, we can get into that hotel. So we've been working hard with that. While people are in hotels, we are working with vital documents, helping to prepare them, because we're hoping there could hopefully be some placement afterwards. This is not a housing solution. It's really to keep these folks safe, to keep them from out in the ailment outside, so that they're not spreading anything. None of them are COVID positive. We are screening that twice a week, and they are all doing very well. So we're happy about that. Our street outreach team is monitoring about 73 different residents all throughout Livermore. We are in touch and just building relationship, resourcing, educating of what resources are available to them in this time. Do they need solar chargers? Do they know where the food is? What clothing do you need? Do you need a hotel? Are you high risk? So our team is actively out in Livermore doing that. We are also Wednesdays at the laundry and shower outreach, providing resourcing there. We are working with residents that are at risk of being homeless. They're in their homes, they've lost their jobs, they're scared. So our teams are bringing supplies and groceries as needed, helping with car repair, some of those obstacles that are really shaking people, giving resources via email of job resources, trainings, financial resources, anything that we can find on how to work with your landlord. So we're trying to just continue to resource the people in our client load, and as well as bringing some stabilization there. We have a donation center. It's placed at Inklings in Pleasanton, where when we do an ask, when we're doing these outreaches in the Tri-City, we notice a need, we do an ask, tons of resources come in, we distribute those during our outreach, but we're also helping, like Monthly Miracles is picking up some clothes today. Open Heart Kitchen, their street outreach team is coming, or they came this morning and got some feminine hygiene products. So when they're out, so we're not just resourcing CityServe, we want to really collaborate with other agencies that are in need. And then we built a crisis response volunteer team. As you heard, many of the outreaches, some of the volunteers are in that high risk category that need to stay home. So we do have another team to supplement some of these outreaches, and they're doing caring calls, deliveries, hauling things from one hotel to another, car repair. So we are taking volunteers if anybody's interested. So we're just moving and shaking and looking for the gaps. And the biggest thing that I'm seeing right now is just the wonderful collaboration between the different nonprofits in the cities. I think it's really impactful in this time. So I just want to thank you guys for your support.
All right, thank you. And now moving on to Heather Greaux, the Executive Director of Open Heart Kitchen, is going to speak a little bit about food.
Thank you, Councilmember Munro. In Livermore, we are serving hot meals to seniors at the Robert Livermore Community Center Monday through Friday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. You have to be at least 60 years old for this program, and you just give us a call to sign up and reserve your meals. The meals are to go, and we are serving them curbside. At 1 p.m. at the same location, we open it up to the community. Our team reports around 75% of the people picking up community meals are families that we have never seen before with children. And they mentioned that they just need a little bit of help because rent is due or they've been laid off. And in less than a week, our community meal count has doubled. We want to make sure that people know that this resource is available for free. You don't need to sign up for the community meals. You just show up at Robert Livermore Community Center from 1 to 3 and pick up a to-go meal. Our production kitchen, our incredible chefs have been busy working against all odds to keep our neighbors fed. Utilizing a skeleton crew, they've been dealing with food shortages, price increases, and just logistical nightmares. It's very difficult to socially distance in a little production kitchen that we have. As an example, in a typical day in our kitchen, we recently served lasagna, and our chefs used 210 pounds of ground beef, 40 pounds of cheese, 6 gallons of marinara sauce, and 30 pounds of lasagna sheets. So in addition to the meals being served at the Robert Livermore Community Center, our street outreach team is delivering hot meals to the encampments Monday through Friday. And on Saturday, they deliver bags of shelf-stable, ready-to-eat food so that people have enough to eat over the weekends. We've also been distributing a lot of things like socks. And with the help of CityServe, we'll be sending out packets of personal hygiene products. You can try to imagine staying safe and clean and, staying in place when you're living in an encampment can be very challenging for our unhoused neighbors. So everyone has been doing everything we can to help them out. A lot of them have pre-existing health conditions, putting them in that high-risk category. So it's important that we all work together to keep them safe. On a positive note, we've received a lot of kind words of support and donations from the community. One person donated their stimulus check saying that they didn't need it and they wanted it to support people who are in need right now. We had a yoga teacher do an online class and donate the fees that her students paid. And lots of groups are sewing masks, not only for our staff, but for the people that are standing in line to pick up the community meals and the seniors that visit us as well. So people are being creative and helping in any way they can. I'd also like to thank the City of Livermore and the Livermore Area Parks and Rec District for all of their help at the Robert Livermore Community Center, helping us distribute meals, and for the help at our main production kitchen, doing everything we need to do to get these meals out. For more information on any of our meal programs, please visit openheartkitchen.org. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Heather. Very informative. Lastly, let's turn to an update from TriValley Haven. We have with us Ralph Johnson, who's Director of Homeless and Family Support Services. Ralph?
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, I hope all is well with everyone. And I wanted to start with our family shelter, Sojourner House. At the time of the state ordered shelter in place in mid-March, we had 2 families and 5 singles at the family shelter. And most recently, in the last 2 weeks, 2 of the singles showed demonstrated health symptoms. and we immediately placed them in motels. And yesterday, both went to the fairgrounds and were tested. And we will find out about those results within 48, 72 hours. And if things are negative, they will be able to come back to Sojourner House. The clients that are currently at Sojourner House, we certainly provide them with masks and gloves. We tell them constantly to practice social distancing, and we take their temperatures twice a day. With regards to our food pantry, again, on the day that of the state-ordered shelter in place, we moved our operations from the building that we work out of out into the parking lot. And we have been able to maintain our schedule of distribution, which are afternoons on weekdays. And we have seen quite a bit of an increase, I'd say 10 to 20 more households on any given day than was before the outbreak. And with our mobile food pantry, we did stop it momentarily for a couple weeks, but because of the fabulous support we are receiving from City of Livermore staff, Pleasanton, and Dublin, we were able to resume the mobile food pantry, and we actually expanded it from monthly runs to every other week. And in Livermore, we continue to go to Vineyard Village, Arbor Vista, and Hillcrest Gardens. And within the next week or two, we'll be starting our mobile food pantry to Chestnut Square. And at each of the locations of the mobile pantries, we see anywhere from 25 to 40 households. And that has been a bigger number than in the past. Any other questions?
Well, thank you very much. We do have a couple of other questions. All of you have talked a little bit about volunteering and donations. So Christine and Heather and Ralph, if you could speak a little bit more about very specific needs. What are the things that you most want? Should people just send money? PPE, time, who can help? All things donation related. Maybe we could start with Christine.
Right now, we're okay with PPE. I think the county and the cities have really helped, and donors. Obviously, we can always, our funding has dropped, from a lot of our funders are getting hit hard. So that's great because we can give supportive services for some of these families. We go through kid packs. So a lot of the families we're working with out on the streets and in homes, we need little craft pack or anything for kids. So when we're serving them or we're delivering something to put like a family board pack, puzzles, something, those have been going so fast. We've been doing about 20 a week. So that's a creative way to get involved. Socks and deodorant, those are kind of the hot things right now. And extra large t-shirts and boxers. Or large boxers. Those are hot items.
Extra large t-shirts and boxers, you said?
Boxers and t-shirts, because when they go to the showers or they're changing, to put something clean underneath at least. So we tend to go through those with all of them.
And do you have for the kids, the little kid packs, do you have specific ideas for what that might be? Do you have maybe a
we can give a prototype. We don't have one. We've just been letting people be creative. So I take pictures of them. So a bunch came today. I can show. Everybody's been very creative. Some put puzzles, some put little coloring books, just things to be creative, drawing, things to cut, so it just, whatever's going to keep a kid busy and excited about being stuck at home.
And what's your situation with volunteers?
We have
are
a
you-
lot of volunteers. We have volunteers right now working. They're sending me pictures while I'm on the phone. I think the biggest need, if there is anyone that maybe has a specialty in addictions or mental health, and maybe they're not working right now and they want to go around with our outreach team, that would be a great resource to support our team, because that's not a specialty we have. We resource, but we're running into a lot of that right now. So anyone that wants to contribute in that way, when we do outreaches, and be a support to our team would be great.
So you think maybe people are a little stressed right now and need a little, never mind, that's.
Just a little.
So turning to Heather, could you, same question back to you in terms of specifics, in terms of donations, volunteers, money, what do you need the most of? What's the, if you can give one thing, what might that be?
The easiest way to support Open Heart Kitchen right now is to donate money. You can also donate to the TriValley Nonprofit Fund that Councilmember Munro mentioned, because that supports a lot of different nonprofits at the same time that are working really hard. It's really difficult for us to take in food donations right now because we are sanitizing every single thing that comes into our kitchen. But a lot of food distributors like Cheetah Foods in Pleasanton and Monica's here in Livermore, the restaurant, have been making large bulk food donations to us, which is very helpful. And they make arrangements in advance, and we have to make sure we have room to store it. But bulk food donations are helpful. And unfortunately, we're not able to have volunteers help us right now. We miss our volunteers, and we can't wait for everyone to come back. But it is very difficult for social distancing in our kitchens. So we are trying to keep our staff safe so our kitchens don't get shut down for any reason. So we'll be looking forward to the volunteers when everything is back to normal.
I think everybody's looking forward to that. And finally, Ralph, could you, again, if you could respond to volunteers, donations, what's the most helpful thing right now?
Yes, with regards to volunteers, as Heather mentioned, when everything broke out on this shelter in place, we asked all of our volunteers to take a break, shelter in place, and practice social distancing. So it's only been staff throughout TriValley Haven that have been at the food pantry site. But what has happened shortly after mid-March, an agency called TriValley Shelter in Place. They're based in the Tri-Valley area, and they were kind enough to schedule volunteers every single weekday morning to continue our grocery rescue pickups. And those grocery rescue pickups are 2 to 3 grocery stores on any given weekday morning. And that's where we get a lot of our produce and milk and chicken and fish, eggs, that we're able to supply our customers in addition to our government issued food from the food bank. And again, I mentioned the only reason we're able to start up the food pantry again and even expand is because of the wonderful volunteers from the 3 cities. With regards to money, we could always use that to make some purchases, and we've been currently doing that at Safeway to bolster what we are putting in the grocery bags. And with regards to PPE, the one thing I think we are short on are masks, because even though we're practicing social distancing at the parking lot of the food pantry, we certainly want to give out masks to our customers. So that would be very helpful.
Okay. And then Heather, I believe you answered this, but if you could just reiterate the the hot to go meals at Robert Livermore Community Center, could you speak about any restrictions at all on who can receive the meals?
When it's open for seniors only, you do have to be at least 60 years old and you have to sign up in advance and reserve your meals. It's really easy. You just give us a phone call. The phone number is on our website, openheartkitchen.org. At 1 o'clock, when we open it up to the community, you don't need to sign up. You just drive up to pick up your meals. We are giving up to 4 meals a person, so they can take it home to their families. And you just have to be there between 1 and 3.
Thank you. I wanted to, there was one follow-up question I forgot for Heather. You'd mentioned the food coming in for from the restaurants as donations. Now, assuming that I wanted to support those restaurant donations, would I make a donation to the restaurant? Would I make a donation to you? How would that take place?
Well, if you make a donation to us, it will be tax deductible, and we purchase food in bulk from the same providers as the restaurants. But of course, all of our local restaurants need to serve their employees. That way their employees don't need to be in our community meal lines. So you can support local restaurants by dining out, picking up food to go at the restaurants if you can afford it. That doesn't necessarily come full circle back to us, but a lot of the restaurants have been very generous in the past to us, and we really appreciate their support.
Thank you. And I think Councilmember Carling has some more questions.
Yes, thank you. This one is for Kerry. You talked about placing medically fragile folks in hotels. And two part of this question is, one is, what's the plan going forward? And maybe you could speak in that context with some of the people that I think you mentioned you've actually moved out already. So where do those people go that you've moved out? And secondly, what's the plan for the longer term housing for those that are currently in hotel rooms?
Thanks. So the only people who have moved out have primarily been people who were in the quarantine site. So they were there for the period of quarantine. We've had a few people leave safer ground, so the site for the high risk and medically fragile or over 65. So those, I think the last I checked, we'd only had 5 or 6 exits, and one had gone to Operation Comfort because they were symptomatic. One had moved into housing. A couple had decided that they did not want to stay and went back to the congregate shelter or encampment site. And one had just left, and we don't know why. But out of 400 people, you know, it's a pretty low number who've chosen to leave if they have the ability to stay. Our longer term plan is we're definitely looking at sites that we can acquire, not necessarily the same sites that we're leasing. Some of those hotel owners are interested, some aren't, but we're trying to identify capital funds and acquisition strategies, working with some state folks and some people in the regional technical assistance work to figure out how we can assemble a financing package to acquire places for people to maintain permanent housing. We're also looking at all of the kind of flexible subsidies that we have within the county to see if we can use those to help people move from the hotels to permanent housing when the emergency ends. So really with each person, it's a different path to housing, but trying to figure out how to direct all the resources that are available to us to make those pathways a reality for people.
Do the folks currently in the hotels, do they have a case manager that helps with making some of these decisions and looking forward?
Yes. So the the package for the shelter management includes housing navigation and connection to resources and referrals. We also have mobilized the Behavioral Health Department and Healthcare Services Agency. They have people on site all day, every day at this point, working with people on behavioral health and substance use and the more intensive parts of case management. So in addition to the case management around housing, they're working with people kind of on all fronts.
Okay, thank you. This question's for Christine. When it comes to serving clients, what's been your biggest challenge during this pandemic event?
Finances, I think, is number one. For example, in the last 2 weeks, in the last 2 weeks, our biggest demand has been, we had over $75,000 ask for rental assistance for those that are in our at-risk sheltered client load, plus all the queue. We have 45 people in our queue right now wanting to be enrolled in case management, and those are not the unhoused, these are sheltered folks. So that has been quite a demand. And I think another challenge is we have 31 people in 2 cities in these hotels, and trying to prepare them what's next. We're working with them twice a week, building relationships, helping them to access benefits, which is extremely challenging right now because the DMV, to get IDs, to get benefits, everything's kind of very scaled down. So we're trying to get them access to some income so that they're prepared to do whatever's next. So I think, are there people that have rooms for rent? I have 6 people right now I think would be fantastic to rent a room or some type of in-law unit that we're preparing them for. But the thought of, okay, in a month, eventually the funding is going to run out for these hotels. Then what? Are we have to say, okay, now you go back to your bus stop and you look a lot better and you seem healthier, but there's no housing. So for us, it's extremely challenging. That is a very big obstacle for us as caseworkers. So any support we can have around that would be great. But and just the funding, obviously, I think the cities are doing a great job providing some funding for the hotels, but we're doing a lot with our personal and general funding to support the families that are there, such as car repairs, because a lot of them have cars, but they don't work and they break down in the hotels, or they have issues with their children that we're trying to support as well. And yeah, so.
One of the more visible things I think for people are the folks living in the encampment out by the Arroyo.
Right.
What's it like? Can you just share with us a little bit about how your case managers work with those folks?
Right. So what people need to understand is it might take 50 interactions with one of them for them to feel that they can trust us, that we don't have an agenda, that it's not a herd mentality. There's not one solution for everybody. So I think our approach has been to just keep meeting with them, maybe not coming down in entourages. We're trying to change our approach of more organic one-on-one conversations. We have offered quite a few of the people that are at risk down there hotel rooms that they have denied for various reasons. So when you still see them, they're like, why aren't they in the hotel? They have their own choice. We don't force anybody into hotels. So I think there's a lot of addiction problems. So that's some of the people we've had to move out, unfortunately, from the hotels. They had a place, but then they're partying and not doing the social distancing. So we've had to move them along to people we feel would be more successful there. So we're, with our new outreach girls, really trying to come up with some solutions to build that trust with some of the people that are in the hotels from the creek, are maybe going to go down and together build some of those relationships. But it's extremely complex, and there's new people coming down there all the time, changing the dynamics. And I think just for the nonprofits that are going down there, for us to be in real good collaboration and not overlapping on similar services. But I think it's made me as a leader go, what can I do to support my team with mental health and addiction resourcing, so because they feel like, I don't know, you know, some of these are just very complex. So what can I do as a leader to provide some of that training or staffing needed to work with a very special type of issue that we're having down there? And we work very closely with the homeless liaison officers. So we're going down there almost weekly with them, but that brings a certain, some people won't trust us because of that. So we're trying any and everything to build trust, and hopefully over time that'll pay off.
Thank you. You bring up an important, I guess, support from the city, and that's the homeless liaison officers. And maybe not everybody knows that the police department does have 2 individuals whose full-time positions are to interface with the homeless community. And I've met those folks, and I find them extremely compassionate and reasonable, and very caring in terms of these folks that are unsheltered. Is that your experience as well?
Yes, Officer Martin and Greaux were texting. They let us know, we have this guy in the parking lot here. Can you go out? We'll go out. They'll give us a little bit of a background. If we feel like we're going deep into the camps where there's some unsafe issues that they know about and they want us to be protected, they have no problem going along with us. They'll alert us of things, but I see them really working well with people. I don't see this hard enforcement side of them. I think they're really trying to give them every opportunity to be successful and bringing us along. Do we need to get you vital documents? Do you need reconnection with your family, relocation? So they've been fantastic. They're very responsive when we need them, and we try to be responsive when they need us.
Another point, I think that's one that we could maybe emphasize, is that despite the fact that we, the city, providers like CityServe, Open Heart Kitchen, and the Haven and so on, we can reach out to these folks, but if they don't want the help, we can't force them. I mean, your point earlier about getting people into hotels and they choose to stay living in a tent by the arroyo, I don't think is all that known to the folks that see these people out there. I mean,
well, you have to understand, if they go to a hotel, they have to leave their stuff there because they built out these, and that's a risk. When they come back, it's going to be gone or used. So, you know, they aren't willing to do that. And some have gone in the hotel and they go back down and it's been taken over by another 2 people. So that's their space. That's what they know. And I think sometimes it just feels more familiar to them. And when they know they go in into the hotel, they don't know how long that's for because it's week by week as a shelter in place. So they're going, do I give up my prime spot here of a space that I know to go there? And it might be a week, then I come back, that's not here, I'm not welcome back, you know? So there's all these psychological connections to that. So we have to navigate all that.
No, and I appreciate all the work that you've been doing. And I think it's important for folks to know that this isn't as easy for those individuals as we all may think.
Right.
Why wouldn't I go into a hotel versus living in the creek? Well, you gave some really good reasons. And I think that's important for folks to know. Well, thanks very much, Christine. I want to ask Josh if we had gotten any additional questions for any of us, our panelists, and either council member or me.
We have Kerry addressed it through the chat, but I think just for video purposes, I'd like to ask it, and then perhaps she can answer it again. The question is, are county, state, FEMA reimbursements for some of the costs that these nonprofits are paying coming through, or are they having to go in debt first?
Thanks. And the response was that nonprofits can request through the cities, through the local EOC, for emergency resources that they need to respond to COVID. For example, we have had cities request hygiene stations, portable toilets, hand washing, water to go out to encampments. And if the local EOC can provide that, they will. And if they can't, then they refer that to the county operations center to see if the county can also assist.
Thank you, Kerry. One other question I think I'd like to ask Heather, and I don't remember if she addressed it or not, but can you tell us how many meals a week you're serving at the Robert Livermore Community Center?
Let's see. So since our numbers pretty much doubled this week, I think that we're at about 1,500 meals a week. But that's going to continue to climb. We think this week people are going to keep coming in that are new because rent's due. And a lot of people are struggling right now. And we just want to make sure that they know there is no stigma attached. Everyone needs help. So please come see us. We have some great tasty food that you just pick up.
Thank you. Other than that, there's no other questions.
All right, thank you very much, Josh. Trish, I'm going to turn it over to you. I think you have some remarks to make to wrap up.
Well, yes, I wanted to just thank all of our panelists for the important work they're doing and for sharing that work with the community, with us, and particularly with putting out what we can all do to help. I know that for all of us, however we're sheltering, whatever we're doing, however we are doing, and we're all doing differently, we are in this together. We all want to help. So with that in mind, I wanted to make sure people knew what they could do if they need help and what they can do if they can offer help. So the first place to start is to go to the cityoflivermore.net website and click on the COVID-19 page. That takes you to a list of resources for both helping and getting help. Lots and lots of information there. By the way, you can also call me, you can call Council Member Carling, you can email, we're all available, and as are all of those who are offering help. We are all in this together. I mentioned that I wanted to particularly highlight the TriValley Nonprofit Alliance because they are coordinating a lot of the 6 major organizations that have been identified by Dublin, Livermore, and Pleasanton. So here's a little bit more about that. The TriValley Nonprofit Alliance launched the TriValley Nonprofit Fund, and the purpose of that is to make sure that we have a blanket of services around our community supporting 6 safety net service providers, which are on the front line of working with the COVID-19 pandemic. And by the way, when the pandemic is over, these are the organizations that are providing support for those in need across the board. So these are the 6 nonprofits: Access Community Health, CityServe, and you've heard from Christine, Open Heart Kitchen, you've heard from Heather, the Senior Support Services of the Tri-Valley, Spectra Meals on Wheels, and TriValley Haven, and you've heard from Ralph on that. So all of those 6 organizations need money. You can give in other ways. You've heard how you can do that. But if you donate to the TriValley Nonprofit Fund, there is a match for that, 100% match, because the Community Health and Education Foundation has offered to match up to $20,000. So you can donate, as you've heard, you can volunteer, you can get help, as discussed. We're here, we're not going away. None of these organizations are going away. We're going to get through this all together. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us. I want you to stay healthy. I want you to stay safe. And we're going to get through it together. Councilmember Carling, any final words?
No, thanks. I think you did a very nice job. I express my thanks for all the participants today. We didn't introduce Josh, but he's a new hire at the city working on homeless, and he's been a great addition and partnering not only with the council, but also with the staff in the city. So again, thanks to everyone for participating, and for those out on the internet, thanks for joining us.